What happens when a prince who's used to controlling the narrative sits across from a host who refuses to be intimidated? What happens when polished media training crashes into a lawyer-trained cross-examiner with a live audience watching every second? This isn't a royal puff piece. This is the night Prince Harry walked onto the Megyn Kelly Show, expecting another platform, and walked out in fury instead. The studio of the Megyn Kelly Show was colder than it looked on TV. Bright, clean light washed over the set, reflecting off the sleek desk, the blue panels, the giant video wall pulsing with the show's logo. Behind the cameras, a small live audience rustled in their seats, whispering to each other, as staff made last-second adjustments. In the center of it all sat Megyn Kelly. She was calm, composed, perfectly still, except for the pen in her hand tapping lightly against a stack of notes. Years in courtrooms and newsrooms had carved a certain poise into her posture. Back straight, shoulders relaxed, gaze sharp but unreadable. She looked like someone who'd already seen this fight from 3 different angles and was just waiting for the bell to ring. Across from her, Prince Harry slouched into his chair. He wore a navy jacket over a white shirt, collar slightly open, jaw clenched, expression halfway between boredom and irritation. As if this was just another tedious obligation in a life filled with people who didn't get him. He adjusted his lapel microphone like it was an inconvenience rather than a favor. The floor manager counted down with raised fingers. 3, 2, 1. The red light on the main camera snapped on. "Good evening and welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show," Megyn said, voice smooth, professional. "Tonight we're joined by a man who needs no introduction, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex." The words hung in the air for a beat. Applause followed, polite but cautious, as if the audience wasn't sure which version of him they were about to meet. Megyn turned to him with a courteous smile. "Harry, thank you for being here." He gave a small nod, not bothering to match the warmth in her tone. "Well," he said, voice edged with dry sarcasm, "apparently I'm the world's favorite topic. Might as well show up once in a while to correct the record." A few people in the audience chuckled awkwardly. Megyn's smile didn't flicker. "Well, we're glad you chose to correct it here," she replied evenly. "You've been very visible the last few years. Books, documentaries, interviews. A lot of people feel they know your story. Tonight, I'd like to go deeper than headlines." Harry smirked, shifting back in his chair. "You mean deeper than the narrative you and your colleagues like to push?" Megyn let that pass with a small nod. "Let's start with something simple," she said. "How are you? Not as a royal, not as a public figure, just as Harry, the person. How is life right now?" He sighed as if the question were unimaginably tedious. "Life is tolerable," he said. "Quieter than the circus I left behind, noisier than I'd like because people like you keep dragging me into conversations I didn't ask for." Megyn's brows lifted just a fraction. "Well, to be fair, you did agree to this interview." "No," Harry corrected sharply. "My team agreed to give you a chance. There's a difference." The tone landed like a slap. The audience shifted in their seats. You could feel the tension ripple outward. Megyn's voice stayed steady. "Understood," she said. "Then let's earn that chance. You've spoken often about breaking away from what you've called a toxic institution. Looking back now, do you feel freer, happier, or is there a part of you that still misses the structure of royal life?" Harry huffed out a joyless laugh. "Do I miss being told what to wear, what to say, where to stand, how to grieve?" he asked. "No, I don't miss the costume party. I don't miss being a prop in someone else's photo op." "Not at all?" Megyn pressed gently. "There's nothing you miss? The sense of service? The connection to your country?" He looked at her like she'd just said something stupid. "Service isn't exclusive to palaces and parades," he replied. "I can serve people without bowing to an old building and pretending it has feelings. America understands that. That's why I'm here." The contempt in the last sentence wasn't subtle. A couple of audience members frowned. One woman in the second row shook her head slowly. Megyn's pen tapped once against her notes. "Let's talk about your mother," she said softly. The air in the room seemed to tighten instantly. "Princess Diana remains a powerful figure around the world. You've spoken about her publicly many times. When you look at your life now, do you feel you're living in a way she'd recognize or approve of?" Harry's jaw flexed. My mother would understand better than anyone why I left, he said. She knew what it was like to be trapped, to be devoured by the press. Frankly, I think she'd be disgusted by how people like you still try to use her name for ratings. The last line landed like a punch. Meghan's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened. I'm not using her name for ratings, she answered calmly. I'm asking about her because you've made her central to your story. She's in your book, in your interviews, in your documentaries. So, I think it's fair to ask what she'd think about the man you've become. Harry's lips curled. What she'd think, he repeated slowly. Right. Another journalist pretending to be her spokesperson. You didn't know her. You didn't know what she suffered. So, forgive me if I don't find your concern particularly authentic. The word dripped sarcasm. There was a quiet, uncomfortable murmur from the audience. Meghan folded her hands together atop her notes, giving herself a heartbeat to breathe. I don't claim to have known her, she said, but millions of people felt connected to her, and many of them are watching tonight. They've watched you too. Some sympathize deeply. Others feel you've turned pain into a brand. Do you understand that criticism? Harry's eyes flashed. I understand that people are more comfortable when trauma stays tidy and silent, he shot back. They want my mother to be a poster on their wall, not a human being. They want me grateful and quiet. I'm not interested in making them comfortable. Meghan nodded once. Is that why you keep speaking out? Because you're not interested in their comfort? Or because you're not done being heard? He leaned forward, irritation sharpening his features. I speak out because no one listened when it mattered, he said. Now they have to. That's the difference. I finally have the power to decide when and how my story is told. And the money, Meghan added lightly, almost as an afterthought. Book deals, streaming projects, paid interviews. A lot of people see your story as extremely profitable. A small smirk tugged at Harry's mouth. Oh, there it is, he said. The jealousy, the how dare you profit from your life angle. Tell me, Meghan, do you donate your salary to charity? Or is it only royals who aren't allowed to be paid for their trauma? The audience reacted with a mix of soft gasps and uneasy laughter. Meghan inhaled slowly through her nose, counting a beat before responding. This isn't about jealousy, she replied. It's about consistency. You've said you wanted privacy, yet you've repeatedly put your life on global display, on your terms. That's not illegal or immoral, but it does raise questions. And you think you're the one to ask them, Harry muttered. Of course you do. Her eyes narrowed a millimeter, though her voice remained composed. It's my job to ask, she said simply. And tonight, you agreed to answer. He tilted his head, assessing her like an opponent across a chessboard. We'll see, he said. The tension between them had settled into something almost tangible now, like two magnets held close, poles resisting, invisible force vibrating between them. The crew could feel it, the audience could feel it. Somewhere in the control room, a producer mouthed, "Oh, wow." Meghan flipped to the next page of her notes. All right, she continued, let's talk about your brother. You and Prince William were once seen as inseparable. You described him as your beloved brother, and also as someone you've physically fought with. Where does that relationship stand today? Harry's expression hardened into something colder. Where it stands, he said slowly, is none of your business. Harry, you wrote about those conflicts in your book, Meghan reminded him. You made them public. The moment you did that, they became fair questions. Yes, and you bought the book, he snapped. Congratulations, you're welcome. But I don't owe you live updates on my family text messages just because you got a book club discount. The audience reacted again, this time with more murmur than laughter. The arrogance in his tone had crossed an invisible line. Meghan's patience held, but just barely. I'm not asking for text messages, she said. I'm asking if there's any hope of reconciliation. Many people who come from fractured families are watching. They're wondering if two brothers, after everything, can find their way back to each other. He shrugged, the gesture dismissive. People love a reunion story, he said. It makes them feel better about their own messes. But my life isn't a Hallmark movie. If William wants to sit under a portrait and pretend everything is fine, that's his choice. I'm done pretending. Meghan's gaze held his a beat longer this time. Does any part of you miss him? She asked quietly. No, Harry answered too quickly. Next question. And with that, The crack in his composure showed for the briefest moment, so fast most viewers would miss it, but not Megyn. She saw the way his throat tightened, the way his eyes flickered away for half a second before snapping back, harder than before. She filed that away. "Very well," she said. "Then let's shift to your life here in America. Your home, your work, your family, with Megyn and your children." As she spoke, the camera slowly pushed in, capturing the distance between them on that glossy set, the one trying to keep the interview grounded, the other already pulling it toward the edge of a cliff. The audience didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The first commercial break came like a pressure valve hissing open. The red light above the camera blinked off, and instantly the studio changed temperature. Crew members stepped in with powder and water bottles. A makeup artist hovered near Harry, then thought better of it when she saw the look on his face. He waved her off with a sharp flick of his hand. Megyn glanced at her notes, then at him. "You doing all right?" she asked quietly, voice stripped of performance. Harry gave her a sideways look. "Are you?" She smiled faintly. "I've done this a few times." "That's part of the problem," he muttered. Before she could answer, the floor manager raised his hand. "We're back in 10, 9, 8. Megyn straightened in her chair, the host returning to her eyes like a mask slipping neatly into place. Harry rolled his shoulders once, as if bracing for impact. 3, 2, 1. The red light flicked on. "We're back with Prince Harry," Megyn said, voice smooth, professional. "We've been talking about his life after leaving the royal family, his relationships, and his new chapter in America. Harry, I want to turn to something that has been controversial, to put it mildly." He exhaled sharply through his nose. "Only one thing?" The audience gave a small ripple of laughter. Megyn let it pass. "You've spoken often about wanting privacy," she continued, "but you and Megyn have also done multi-part documentaries, a best-selling memoir, podcast series, a variety of interviews. Many people feel that you've built a public identity around grievances. Do you see why that perception exists?" Harry leaned back, crossing his arms, a small, almost lazy smile on his lips. "I see why people who only consume headlines might think that," he said. "I don't see why a so-called serious journalist would frame it that way." Megyn's eyes narrowed just a touch. "How would you frame it?" "As survival," Harry replied. "As reclaiming a life that was never really mine. You call it grievance because you're uncomfortable with people telling the truth, especially about institutions you spent years glorifying." I spent years questioning institutions," Megyn countered evenly. "The palace included. I'm not uncomfortable with truth, Harry. I'm uncomfortable with half-truths being sold as the whole picture." He snorted softly. "Right. Because you, of all people, are the authority on what counts as the whole picture." She let the jab slide off her. "Let's talk about Megyn," she said, and the room seemed to tighten again. "She remains one of the most polarizing figures in modern public life. Some see her as a victim of racism and cruelty. Others see her as manipulative and self-centered. How do you see her, beyond the public narrative?" Harry's stare hardened. "I see her as the only person who ever bothered to understand me," he said. "The only one who didn't treat me like a mascot or an obligation. She saw me as a human being, not a title. That's apparently unforgivable to some people." Megyn nodded slowly. "Do you think any of the criticism directed at her is fair?" His response was instant. "No." "None?" she pressed. He gave a short, contemptuous laugh. "That's the beauty of this, Megyn. People who've never met her, who've never even been in the same room as her, feel entitled to pick apart her every word, her every expression. They call that fair criticism. I call it obsession." "Some of that criticism," Megyn said carefully, "has come from people who have been in the room. Staffers, journalists, people who have worked with her, anonymous sources with axes to grind," Harry cut in sharply. "People who don't have the courage to put their name on what they say. That's not testimony, that's gossip." Megyn's tone cooled by a degree. "Some of them have put their names to their accounts," she said. "Are they all lying?" Harry's jaw clenched. "Yes," he said flatly, "or spinning things to fit a narrative that sells. You know how that works better than anyone." There it was again, the shove, the edge, the accusation that she was part of the problem. The audience murmured uneasily. Megyn laced her fingers together, anchoring herself physically. "You've accused the British press of racism and targeted cruelty," she said. "You've said they drove Meghan to suicidal thoughts. Those are very serious claims. Do you regret putting them out there with so little specificity? No names, no evidence, just broad accusations?" His eyes narrowed to slits. "You want names?" he asked, voice dropping lower. "You want me to hand you a list of people you can feed to the wolves so you can enjoy another media execution? That's not accountability, Megyn. That's blood sport." "Accountability involves facts," she replied. "Specifics. You've painted an entire institution and press corps as racist and abusive without ever providing details that can be examined, verified, challenged. That's not blood sport. That's convenient." Harry's smile disappeared. "You don't get to tell me what my truth should look like to make you comfortable," he said. "You certainly don't get to demand I put more targets on people's backs just so you can feel better about interrogating my story." "I'm not trying to feel better," Megyn answered. "I'm trying to understand where responsibility ends and revenge begins." The line landed hard. The audience let out a low, "Ooh," that sounded more like a collective wince. Harry leaned forward, his voice sharpening. "You love that word, don't you?" he said. "Revenge. It makes for a great segment. The Angry Prince Revenge Tour. Nice thumbnail, good ratings. It's lazy, small-minded. You reduce complex trauma to a headline and then act shocked when I push back." Megyn's patience flickered. "Trauma is real," she said, careful to keep her tone steady. "So is pattern. And the pattern is, every time someone asks you a tough question about your role in all of this, you accuse them of bad faith. Is that how you navigate every conversation now?" He tilted his head, studying her as if she were something under a microscope. "Is that how you navigate yours?" he countered, "deflecting your own industry's complicity by pretending you're the brave one asking the tough questions?" She held his gaze. "I'm not pretending," she said quietly. "I am asking them. Now answer one." There was a beat of silence. Harry shifted, that small crack of discomfort appearing for half a second, before he covered it with irritation. "You really think you're going to get some neat little soundbite from me?" he asked. "This isn't a courtroom. I'm not on trial here," Megyn offered, a small, controlled smile. "Harry, with respect," she said, "you put a lot of other people on trial, in your book, in interviews, in documentaries. You've cross-examined your own family in the court of public opinion. Tonight, people expect you to face at least a fraction of that scrutiny yourself." His expression darkened. "I didn't put them on trial," he said. "I told the truth. If they don't like how they look in it, that's not my problem." "But it is your responsibility," she pushed gently. "Because you chose to tell that truth publicly, repeatedly, for profit. That's not neutral. That's not consequence-free." The word profit clearly hit a nerve. He sat up straighter, anger flaring. "You keep coming back to that," he snapped. "My earnings, my deals, my contracts. Does it bother you that I finally have money that isn't controlled by the palace? Or does it bother you that I didn't have to ask your industry's permission to get it?" Megyn felt the first real surge of irritation rise in her chest. "It doesn't bother me that you make money," she said, firmer now. "It bothers me that you pretend the money has nothing to do with the story you keep reselling. There's a big difference between telling your truth once and building an empire out of it." Silence again. Harry's eyes were burning now, a hard, defensive flame. "You're offended that I won't play poor prince for your sympathy arc," he said. "You want contrition, humility, tears on cue. You want me broken so you can feel noble asking me why. I'm not going to give you that." Megyn's jaw flexed, just barely. "I don't want you broken," she said. "I want you honest. And so far, what I'm seeing is a lot of blame and very little self-reflection." The audience reacted, this time with a stronger wave of murmurs, some nodding, some shifting uncomfortably. The camera cut briefly to a wide shot, Harry leaning forward, jaw set, body coiled. Megyn sitting upright, composed, but eyes colder now, sharper. "Let's talk about your children," she said, turning a page of her notes. "You've said repeatedly that you left to protect them, from the press, from the institution, from the life you grew up in. At the same time, you've put your life and your grievances front and center in global media. Aren't you worried they'll one day read all of this and see not just a victim of the system, but a man who never stopped reliving it?" Harry swallowed once, the only sign that the question hit somewhere deeper. "My children will one day understand why I did what I did," he said slowly. "They'll know I fought for them, not for some museum of a monarchy. They'll know I didn't let people like you define our story." Megyn looked at him carefully. "Or," she said, her voice quiet but razor sharp, "they might wonder why their father spent years talking about escaping, but never stopped talking about what he ran from." The line cut through the room like a wire. Harry stared at her, disbelief morphing into anger. "You really are something?" he said. "You sit there acting civilized while you twist every word into an accusation. Tell me, Megyn, is there a version of this conversation where you don't assume the worst of me?" She didn't blink. "Yes," she said. "It starts when you stop assuming you're the only injured party in every room you walk into." For the first time, a faint, almost imperceptible ripple of applause moved through the audience. Not loud, not explosive, but enough to make Harry's head turn slightly, enough to feed the growing crack in his composure. His smile returned, but now it was colder, meaner. "So, that's what this is," he said softly. "You want to be the one who finally puts me in my place, the woman who stood up to the spoiled prince. That'll play well on social media, won't it?" Megyn's lips parted just a fraction, then closed again. She sat back, folding her arms loosely, not defensive, but anchored. "This isn't about putting you in your place," she said. "It's about reminding you that in this chair, on this show, you're not above being questioned, title or no title." Harry's fingers tapped once against the armrest. "Maybe you forgot," he said, "but I didn't come here to be cross-examined like some criminal. I came here because my team thought you might handle this with an ounce of respect." "And I have," Megyn replied, her tone controlled but colder now. "I've called you by your name and title. I've let you finish your answers. I've not shouted, insulted, or mocked you. If that's your bar for disrespect, then maybe the real issue isn't the questions. It's the mirror they hold up." That landed, hard. The air felt charged, crackling with an argument still pretending to be an interview. The floor manager made a small circling gesture with his hand. They had to cut to break soon. Megyn glanced at the clock, then back at Harry. "After the break," she said, almost daring him, "we're going to talk about your public image here in America, how it's changed, and whether the world still sees you as the wounded prince, or something very different. Stay with us." The camera held on Harry's burning stare for a beat too long, then cut away as the red light blinked off. For a moment, the only sound in the studio was the quick exhale of a producer who realized they were standing in the middle of a controlled explosion that was getting less controlled by the minute. The break ended with tension so thick it felt like the studio lights were pushing it downward like a weight. Crew members whispered in corners. A producer mouthed to another, "This is going off the rails." But the cameras didn't care. The red light blinked back on, and silence snapped into place like a closing trap. Megyn Kelly straightened her cards, exhaled once, and gave her signature on-air smile, thin, professional, controlled. Harry sat stiffly, chin lifted, as though the chair beneath him was beneath him. "Welcome back," Megyn said smoothly. "We're here with Prince Harry, continuing a conversation that has taken some unexpected turns." Harry scoffed audibly into the microphone. Megyn ignored it. "I want to talk now," she continued, "about the public reaction to your interviews, the documentaries, the memoir. Many feel you've crossed the line from whistleblower to, well, constant critic. Some even say you've built a brand on resentment. How do you respond to that?" Harry gave her a gaze so condescending it almost belonged in a palace painting. "How adorable," he said. "The American media pretending to care about public sentiment. You all thrive on resentment. Outrage keeps your lights on." Megyn leaned back slightly, letting him speak. "You're deflecting, Harry," she said calmly. "I asked how you respond." He shrugged. "I don't. People will think whatever they want. They always have." "Do you ever worry," Megyn asked gently, "that maybe, just maybe, the issue isn't everyone else?" Harry stared at her, jaw twitching. "Why? Because I'm not groveling the way you want? Because I'm not falling to pieces on cue?" "No," Megyn said with deliberate softness. "Because every narrative you tell has the same villain, and the same hero." Harry leaned forward, voice sharp. "I am the hero of my story. Isn't that what all your self-help books tell people? Find your voice, live your truth, break toxic cycles. But when I do it, suddenly it's inconvenient. You're not being criticized for finding your voice, Megyn replied. You're being criticized because your voice only goes one direction. Outward, never inward. Harry gave a tight, mocking smile. Oh, is this the part where you psychoanalyze me? He mocked. On daytime TV? This isn't psychoanalysis, she said. It's journalism. No, Harry snapped. It's spectacle. And you're loving every second because you finally got your handsome villain. Megyn blinked once, slowly, as if absorbing the hit but refusing to bleed. All right, she said evenly. Then let me ask a question that a lot of people have wondered about. Harry rolled his eyes dramatically. She ignored it. Your book, she said. You described intimate fights with your brother, private conversations with your father, even tension with Catherine. Did you ever stop and ask yourself, is this mine to tell? Harry stiffened. It became mine, he said sharply. The moment they fed lies about me to the press, they forfeited their privacy when they used it as a weapon. Megyn nodded. And this is your counterattack? Harry smirked. I don't attack. I correct. But you wrote about things no one can verify, she pressed. Disagreements behind closed doors, moments no one else witnessed. How do we know your truth isn't also a weapon? Harry scoffed loudly. Because unlike them, I have no reason to lie. Megyn lifted a brow. That's quite a claim. It's a fact, Harry insisted. It's an opinion, she corrected gently. His jaw clenched. You know what? He snapped. You're just like them. You pretend to be impartial, but your questions aren't neutral. This entire interview was designed to trap me. Megyn's voice stayed low, calm, steady. No, Harry. It was designed to understand you, but you keep turning every question into an attack. Harry pointed at her, jabbing the air with frustration. You want me to sit here and take a beating so you can look like the fair, fearless host. But this isn't bravery, it's opportunism. You're not interested in the truth. You're interested in a viral moment. Megyn's eyes chilled instantly. And what are you interested in? She asked. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you came here to fight. Harry laughed, coldly. Maybe fighting is all I've ever had. Or maybe, she said softly, it's all you choose. That struck him like a stone. His nostrils flared, his fists tightened. You don't know me, he muttered. Then let me, Megyn said, voice firming. Let me ask the questions you keep dodging. Do you regret any of it? Burning bridges, exposing family arguments, portraying yourself as the eternal victim? Do you regret any part of that? Harry glared. No. Megyn inhaled, then set her cards down, slowly, deliberately. Then we can't continue. Harry blinked. What? She sat up straighter. I can't interview someone who refuses to be interviewed, Megyn said. Who insults every question, dismisses every perspective, and treats accountability like an attack. Harry's face flushed with anger. Oh, I see, he hissed. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. No, Megyn said, voice calm but icy. I can take it. I've taken worse from tougher people than you. But what I won't do is sit here while you sneer at every question, like you're above being asked them. Harry stood abruptly. Megyn didn't flinch. This isn't Buckingham Palace, she said. And you're not a prince in this studio. You're a guest. And right now, you're a disrespectful one. The audience gasped. Harry's voice rose. You can't talk to me like that. Megyn lifted her chin. I just did. Harry sputtered, furious. This is ridiculous. I don't have to stay here. You don't, Megyn cut in, her tone final. In fact, don't. We're done. The studio fell into shocked silence. Harry's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes glittered with disbelief and humiliation. You're kicking me out? He demanded. Megyn didn't blink. Yes, she said simply. You can leave. The cameras caught every fraction of the moment. Harry's outrage, Megyn's composure, the audience frozen. Harry yanked off the mic pack, tossed it onto the chair, and stormed off stage. A producer dodged out of his way. The exit door slammed so loudly it echoed. Megyn exhaled once, composed herself, and turned to the camera. Well, she said quietly, that concludes our conversation. A stunned ripple moved across the studio. She continued, "I believe in tough questions, honest answers, and mutual respect. Today, only one of those was present. Thank you to those watching. We'll be back after the break." The screen faded, leaving America gasping at yet another royal meltdown on live TV. Harry had done it again, and this time, Megyn Kelly was the one who shut the door behind him. If this explosive interview kept you on the edge of your seat, trust me, even bigger showdowns are on the way. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next shocking moment.